The biblical foundation of human dominion over creation stems primarily from Genesis 1:28, where God commands humanity to subdue and have dominion over all living creatures. This concept establishes humans as stewards appointed by God to govern and care for the natural world, including all animals. The Hebrew words rada and kabash suggest responsible leadership rather than tyrannical control, implying that humans are meant to rule as God would rule, with wisdom, care, and benevolence. This foundational principle is crucial because it shapes how believers understand their relationship with the animal kingdom and their responsibilities toward creation. It provides the theological framework for human interaction with nature, suggesting that our authority comes with divine accountability. The concept implies that humans are uniquely positioned between God and creation, serving as intermediaries who must answer to their Creator for how they exercise this granted authority. Two clear examples illustrate this principle in action. First, agricultural practices demonstrate dominion through livestock management, where humans breed, care for, and utilize animals for food, labor, and materials while maintaining their welfare. Second, conservation efforts reflect responsible stewardship, as seen in wildlife preservation programs where humans actively protect endangered species and restore damaged ecosystems, exercising dominion through protection rather than exploitation. Many theological scholars support this interpretation, arguing that dominion mirrors God's own character of loving authority. They contend that humans, created in God's image, are called to reflect divine attributes of compassion, justice, and care in their treatment of animals and creation. However, this concept faces significant challenges and alternative interpretations. Critics argue that traditional dominion theology has justified environmental destruction and animal exploitation throughout history. Some propose stewardship theology instead, emphasizing caretaking over ruling, while others advocate for kinship theology, viewing humans as equal participants in creation rather than its appointed governors. Environmental theologians question whether any form of dominion language adequately addresses current ecological crises. This biblical foundation directly influences how believers approach animal welfare, environmental conservation, dietary choices, and scientific research involving animals. It connects to broader discussions about sustainability, ethical treatment of creatures, and humanity's role in addressing climate change. Understanding this foundational concept helps explain why different religious communities approach animal rights and environmental issues with varying perspectives, ultimately shaping policies and practices that affect all living creatures on Earth. The concept of dominion over animals stems from the biblical account in Genesis, where God grants humanity authority over all living creatures. This dominion represents a divine mandate that positions humans as stewards and caretakers of the animal kingdom, carrying both privilege and profound responsibility. The Hebrew word rada, used in the original text, suggests ruling with care and protection rather than exploitation or domination. This principle holds immense significance as it establishes the fundamental relationship between humans and the natural world. It defines our role not as mere inhabitants of Earth, but as appointed guardians responsible for the welfare and preservation of all animal life. This divine commission shapes how we approach conservation, animal welfare, and environmental stewardship. Real-world applications of this stewardship are evident in wildlife conservation efforts, where humans actively protect endangered species like the California condor or African elephants from extinction. Zoos and wildlife sanctuaries exemplify this dominion by providing safe havens for injured or threatened animals while educating the public about conservation. Similarly, sustainable farming practices that ensure humane treatment of livestock, while meeting human needs, demonstrate responsible dominion in action. Many theologians and environmental ethicists support interpreting dominion as stewardship rather than exploitation. They argue that true dominion mirrors God's character of compassion and care, requiring humans to protect and nurture rather than simply use animals for personal benefit. This perspective emphasizes that authority comes with accountability to the Creator. However, this concept faces significant controversy. Some critics argue that the dominion mandate has been misused to justify environmental destruction and animal cruelty throughout history. Alternative interpretations suggest humans should view themselves as equal participants in creation rather than rulers over it. Animal rights advocates often challenge traditional dominion concepts, arguing for more egalitarian relationships between humans and animals. This understanding of dominion profoundly influences how we approach modern ethical dilemmas involving animals, from laboratory research to factory farming practices. It shapes environmental policies, conservation strategies, and even personal lifestyle choices regarding diet and consumption. Ultimately, the concept of dominion serves as a foundational principle that continues to guide humanity's evolving relationship with the animal kingdom, challenging us to exercise our authority with wisdom, compassion, and genuine care for all living creatures entrusted to our stewardship. Understanding the distinction between dominion and domination is crucial when interpreting God's command in Genesis to have dominion over animals. Dominion, from the Hebrew word rada, implies responsible stewardship, governance, and caretaking authority, much like a shepherd caring for sheep or a king serving his people's welfare. Domination, conversely, suggests exploitation, abuse, and self-serving control that disregards the well-being of those under authority. This distinction is profoundly significant because it fundamentally shapes how humans relate to the animal kingdom and creation itself. When dominion is properly understood, it establishes humans as caretakers appointed by God to protect, nurture, and responsibly manage Earth's creatures. This interpretation aligns with the biblical pattern where authority is meant to serve and protect those under one's care. Two clear examples illustrate this principle in action. First, sustainable farming practices demonstrate proper dominion by caring for livestock, providing adequate shelter, nutrition, and humane treatment while utilizing animals for legitimate human needs like food and materials. The farmer exercises authority while ensuring animal welfare. Second, wildlife conservation efforts exemplify dominion through protecting endangered species, preserving habitats, and maintaining ecological balance. Conservationists exercise human authority to safeguard animal populations for future generations. Many theologians and ethicists support this stewardship interpretation, arguing that Genesis presents humans as God's appointed caretakers rather than ruthless exploiters. They emphasize that since God declared creation good, humans have responsibility to maintain that goodness through careful management. However, significant controversies persist around this concept. Some argue that any human use of animals, regardless of how humane, constitutes exploitation. Animal rights advocates challenge whether humans have any right to use animals for food, clothing, or labor, viewing the dominion mandate as inherently problematic. Others interpret dominion more literally, believing humans have unrestricted authority over animals without moral obligations toward their welfare. This understanding of dominion profoundly influences every aspect of human-animal relationships. It affects agricultural practices, wildlife management policies, pet ownership ethics, and even dietary choices. When dominion is viewed as stewardship, it encourages sustainable practices, conservation efforts, and humane treatment. When misinterpreted as domination, it can justify environmental destruction, animal cruelty, and resource exploitation. The proper interpretation of this biblical mandate ultimately determines whether humans fulfill their role as responsible caretakers or destructive rulers of Earth's creatures. The concept of dominion over animals stems from the biblical account in Genesis, where God grants humanity authority over all living creatures on Earth. This divine mandate has been interpreted in various ways throughout history, fundamentally shaping how humans view their relationship with the animal kingdom. The Hebrew word rada, often translated as dominion, carries connotations of ruling, governing, and having authority, but also implies responsibility and stewardship. This concept holds immense significance as it establishes humanity's unique position in creation, distinguishing humans from other species through divine appointment rather than mere evolutionary advantage. It provides a theological framework for understanding why humans possess the cognitive abilities, moral consciousness, and technological capacity to influence virtually every aspect of animal life on the planet. In practical application, this dominion manifests in wildlife conservation efforts, where humans take active responsibility for protecting endangered species and preserving natural habitats. The establishment of national parks, wildlife reserves, and breeding programs demonstrates stewardship-oriented interpretation of dominion. Conversely, industrial farming and factory agriculture represent a more utilitarian application, where animals serve human nutritional and economic needs, though this raises questions about the boundaries of responsible dominion. Many theological scholars support the stewardship interpretation, arguing that dominion implies caring guardianship rather than exploitation. They contend that humans are called to manage creation responsibly, reflecting God's own care for His creation. This view emphasizes that with great power comes great responsibility, and that dominion should mirror divine love and protection. However, significant controversies surround this concept. Animal rights advocates often view the dominion mandate as a root cause of animal exploitation and environmental destruction. They argue that this biblical perspective has historically justified harmful practices toward animals. Some propose alternative interpretations, suggesting that dominion should be understood as servant leadership rather than authoritarian control. Others question whether ancient texts should guide modern environmental ethics given contemporary understanding of animal consciousness and ecological interdependence. This concept of dominion fundamentally influences broader discussions about environmental responsibility, ethical treatment of animals, and humanity's role in creation. It connects directly to questions about sustainable living, conservation ethics, and the moral obligations that accompany human power over nature. Understanding dominion properly becomes crucial for developing a balanced approach that honors both human authority and responsibility toward all creatures under our care, ultimately reflecting the character and intentions of the God who granted this profound responsibility.